Hello. Good morning viewers. So this is again a science class. In our previous discussion we are stopping on the Newton's first law of motion. From the Newton's first law of motion, so we have a clear definition for a force and also a inertia. We says that there by the influence of some external agent only we can change the original state of a body. We call that one as a force. At the same time, the special character of a material body, that is which is unable to change its position by itself, so we call it as a inertia. So we came to know how inertia is there when the body is under motion, how inertia is there when it is under rest. On that we are going to discuss with some examples also in the previous class. Before going to state the Newton's second law of motion, so let us concentrate our interest on one more physical quantity, so that is a momentum. Usually it is abbreviated by the symbol so P. Now already this definition we came to know while writing the dimension of a some physical quantities, which is in the form of momentum is a product of mass into velocity whose dimension is L1 m1 t minus 1 etc. like that. So I will say few examples. If in case of a football game, if the football is kicked by a player, suppose the goalkeeper is a very much skilled person, even though the kickball is kicked by a player, it moves with a tremendous velocity, that goalkeeper may stop the ball comfortably. The concept is their ball moves with a tremendous velocity because of its small size, so the goalkeeper can stop the ball comfortably. So analogous to this, suppose we have a heavy vehicle, say lorry or a bus or a road roller etc. We know that a heavy vehicle so possesses large quantity of mass. When such a heavy vehicle moves with a very small velocity, if you ask the same goalkeeper, he was able to stop the ball when it is moves with a tremendous velocity, to stop such a heavy vehicle, so practically it is not possible because of its heavier mass. Please try to analyze these two examples. In both the cases the material body is under motion. In the first case, B1, though it is very small mass, it moves with a tremendous velocity. In the later case, because of its heavy size, the body moves with a very velocity of very small magnitude. So in the first case one can stop it comfortably, in the later case it is not possible. Both the cases indicates the quantity of motion. To know the quantity of motion, so this physical quantity momentum has been defined. Momentum is a physical quantity from which one can identify the quantity of a motion. So definitely by these two examples you can say the quantity of motion always depends on the mass and also its velocity. So then practically depending upon the mass and velocity we decide momentum of the given body. So how can you calculate, how can you find the momentum of a given body is, it is simply product of mass of the body with the velocity with which it moves. So momentum you can also define mathematically as product of mass and velocity of a body with which it moves. The momentum of a body is also a vector quantity. So in the examination you can expect define momentum, you can say the quantity of motion is called as a momentum, or mathematically you can say the product of mass and velocity of a moving body is also treated as a momentum of that body. So we know that mass is expressed in terms of kg in SI system and velocity is in terms of a k meter per second. Therefore kg meter per second is the SI unit of the momentum. Similarly, you just recall we already write the momentum dimensional equation of a momentum. Mass is m, so it is L1 m0 t minus 1. Finally, the dimensional equation for it is 1 in length, 1 in mass and minus 1 in time. In the examination, you can expect the question, it is in the form of define momentum of a body, or what is the SI unit of a momentum, write down the dimensional equation of a momentum. So, this is about the brief information about the quantity of motion, that is a momentum. Now, let us concentrate. There is a body which moves along a straight line. Suppose you are going to apply some force, say F, on that body with a span of say t seconds in the direction same as that of the body moves. I repeat, there is a body which is under motion. We are going to apply some amount of force on the body for a time of about t seconds in the direction same as that of the moving body. Quite naturally, we came to know the velocity of the body increases. In a reverse sense, you can say there is a body which is under motion. Now, on that body, we are going to apply the force in the direction opposite to its motion. Definitely, in this case, the velocity of the body decreases. So, in both the cases, we are applying the force. In the first case, because of the same direction, velocity increases. In the second case, force applied in the opposite direction, therefore, its velocity decreases. We know that momentum of a body depends on its velocity. When the velocity of a moving body changes, definitely its momentum is also changes. I mean, what I want to say is, there is a relation between force and momentum of a body. Application of force on a body changes its momentum. Similarly, you can say one more example. We have two bodies. One is heavier, another one is having a very low mass. Suppose on both these bodies, one is a heavier body, another one is a lighter body. Suppose on both these bodies, we are going to apply same amount of force simultaneously. We are applying the same amount of force simultaneously on the two bodies which possesses the different size. Definitely, the lighter body moves with more velocity, the heavier body moves with small magnitude of velocity. But in both the cases, the momentum should be same. Heavier body, because of its heavy size, its momentum is more. The lighter body, because of its higher velocity, its momentum is more. When you calculate both, on the both, we are applying the same amount of force. That's why, so here the momentum is decided by the presence of the mass of the body. That's why here also you can say there is a direct relation between so momentum and force applied on a body. This concept is explained by Newton in the form of a law, and this law is labeled as a so Newton's second law of motion. So what this law states means the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to force applied on the body, and the change taken place in the direction of the so that the change takes place in the direction of the force applied. So as I explained by giving some examples, so the change in momentum depending upon the force. Change in momentum is because of the change in the velocity. Velocity changes by application of the force means change in the momentum by the influence of the force. How the force and momentum are interlinked is the rate of change of momentum for a moving body. I repeat, Newton's second law states that the rate of change of momentum of a moving body is directly proportional to force applied on it, and the change and this change takes place in the direction of the force. For example, you can consider a body, say it is labeled as say A, so whose mass is say m. It moves along the straight line with some initial velocity say u. Now on this body let us apply some force, say F units, some force say F unit for a time of about t seconds. When force is influenced on this body, whatever may be its direction, definitely there is a change in the velocity of the same body. Its mass will be remain same. So the later velocity by the influence of the force, you call it as a v. Now you can say u as a initial velocity and v as a final velocity. What Newton's second law says means rate of change of momentum. Rate of change of momentum means it is a ratio from change in momentum to the time taken. What is change in momentum? It is simply a final momentum minus initial momentum. You just recall the equation, mathematical equation which is used to find the acceleration for a moving body. Acceleration for a moving body, that is acceleration is a rate of change of velocity, that is a ratio from change in velocity to the time taken. Change in velocity means final velocity minus initial velocity to the time taken t. Here rate of change of momentum means change in momentum to the time taken. Change in momentum means final momentum and initial momentum. So final momentum means mass is multiplied with a final velocity. Initial momentum means mass of the body multiplied with a initial velocity. Now rate of change of momentum, that is final momentum minus initial momentum to the time taken, say t seconds, is directly proportional to force applied on it. That is, you can recall this, rewrite this one as F proportional to, you can take m as a common factor, you will get v minus u divided by t. Now remove the proportionality sign, you put the equation. For that, to balance this one, put some k, where k is the proportionality constant. F is equal to m into, so v minus u divided by t. As I say earlier, k is a proportionality constant, so whose value may be numerically equal to 1. Therefore this equation takes the form F is equal to 1 into m into, so v minus u by t is nothing but a acceleration for a moving body, it is a. So in a familiar fashion you can write F is equal to ma. So the Newton's second law gives the mathematical equation to calculate the force applied on the body. It is F is equal to ma. So in the first example, first law of motion gives the definition for the force. The second Newton's law of motion gives the mathematical equation to find the force applied on the body or force experienced by the body. Now how can you define according to Newton's second law the force is? Force is a product of mass and acceleration of a moving body. F is equal to ma, where F is the force applied on the body, ma is its mass and a is the acceleration. So in SI system, Newton is the unit of force. How can you define the force Newton? So you can say, if a body whose mass is unity, say 1 kg, by the influence of some force, if it experience or if it suffers an acceleration of 1 meter per second square, then force acting on it is said to be a 1 Newton. So a body having a unit mass experiences or suffers an acceleration of 1 meter per second square, then you can say force acting on it is Newton. So in CGS system, the CGS unit of force is dyne. To say the force acting on the body is in terms of CGS unit, the mass of that body should experience in the form of CGS unit. It is unit mass, that is 1 gram, acceleration should be in centimeter per second square. Now you can say a body of 1 gram experiences with an acceleration of 1 centimeter per second square, then force acts on it may be a 1 Newton. This is how the mathematical definition for Newton's second law, so given by the Newton. So you can say a force acting on a body is simply a product of mass and its acceleration. So now the next topic is impulsive force or impulse of a force. Now let us concentrate how it can be defined. So, impulsive force. Or impulse of a force. So I will reveal few examples. You just say what is the similarity in these examples. Kicking a football, hitting a cricket ball by using a bat for a boundary or a six or any sort of runs, then blasting of a bomb, and also maybe collision between 2 or more bodies, and also hitting head of a nail with a hammer. Now so I want to reveal again these examples. Kicking a football, hitting a cricket ball with a bat, explosion of a atom bomb or any sort of a bomb, collision between 2 or more bodies, so crackers, sound of a crackers, etc. So in all these examples you can observe one similarity is there. What is that similarity? There is a large amount of force you can experience. When 2 bodies are collide with each other, you can expect there is a sharing of large amount of force in both the bodies. When atom bomb explodes, you can expect what is the effect of an atom bomb. To see that effect, so only there is a large magnitude of force is applied on the bodies. So while hitting a kick, hitting a cricket ball using a cricket bat, here also you are applying a large amount of force. Kicking, in all these examples we are applying very large amount of force, but the highlight is these large amount of force is applied only for a very short interval of time. So now you can say how the large magnitude of force and short interval of time, for a short interval of time are connected means we know that F is equal to ma. Now F is equal to m into a means v minus u divided by t. So now you just cross multiply it, F into t, which is equal to, so m into v minus m into u. So this is a product of force. If it is a large magnitude and this is a very short interval, so you just label this product as a impulsive force. Even you can say impulsive force is nothing but a change in momentum of a body when large amount of force acting on it for a very short interval of time. So mathematically, how can you write impulse of a force or impulsive force as it is a product of large amount of force applied on a body within a short interval of time. In the examination you can expect the question in the form of define impulsive force or define impulse of a force, give example. So only for 2 marks you can say impulsive force is simply a product of large amount of force acting on a body for a very short interval of time. So in another fashion you can say impulsive force can be defined as a change in momentum possessed by a body when it is under motion when large amount of force acts on it, so in a very short interval of time. Again, concentrate what are the SI units and dimensional equations for impulsive force. These are also included in your examination. As you all know, force is experienced in terms of a Newton in SI system, and time is in terms of a second. Newton second is the SI unit of a impulsive force. Then what is its dimensional equation? Means F is force is mass into acceleration, that is L1 m1 t minus 2. It is t is t power 1, therefore its dimensional equation is L1 m1 t minus 1 is the dimensional equation of a impulsive force. You can expect the question in this corner in the form of a define impulsive force, give examples, define impulsive force as a change in momentum. So what is its SI unit, what is its dimensional equation? This is about a one of the small definition on the impulsive force. Now, after knowing what is momentum, how Newton's second law of motion is stated, how Newton's second law of motion gives the mathematical definition for a force, what is the SI unit of a force, how it can be defined, what is the CGS unit of a force, how it can be defined, what is a dimensional impulsive force, what is its unit, dimensional equation, etc. Now let us concentrate on very much familiar Newton's third law of motion. I hope all of you know the statement of this Newton's third law in your previous standards. So we says that suppose if you kept some books on the table, some force is exerted by book on the top of the table. So this sort of phenomena here we labeled it as a action. Action is a force exerted by a book on the top of the table when a book is kept on some table. Now for this action, what is the reaction? Similarly, simultaneously that top of the table resists, opposes, force applied in the opposite direction. To what extent? To same extent as that of the action did on the top of the table. On the book, you can say the force, opposite force applied by a top of the table on that book, you call it as a reaction. So according to Newton, these two processes are same. Action is equal to reaction. You can say action as a F1 and reaction as a F2. You can say F1 is equal to F2. So he says that action and reaction are equal and opposite. To say these two are equal, putting the equal sign. To represent these two processes are in opposite to each other. So on either of its sides, either in LHS or on the right hand side, they just changes the sign. It is plus F1, it is minus F2. Action is equal to minus of reaction. So the statement is, the idea is put in the form of a law as action and reaction are equal and opposite. So equal means both action and reaction are equal in magnitude. So opposite means they are acted opposite to each other. So for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. This is also gives the statement of the Newton's law. Now here these two processes, action and reaction, acted on two different bodies. Suppose if you throw ball towards the wall, when ball hits the wall, force applied by a ball on the wall is an action. Similarly, so when the ball bounces back, you can say wall shows the reaction. Wall applies the force on the ball. So applying the force on the wall by the ball is the action. So force applied by a wall on the ball is a reaction. According to Newton, for all actions there is an equal and opposite reaction. So equal means equal in magnitude, opposite means opposite in reaction. Even though this law seems to be so simple, so based on this law there are so many technologies are developed. One of its you can label it as a motion of a rocket, missiles, etc. So it's depending upon the Newton's third law of motion. Even most commonly you can experience the action and reaction did by a swimmer when he swims on the swimming pool or any container, so where the water is there. So he pulls the water, that is the action. Because of it he moves forward, that is the reaction. Always action and reaction are equal and opposite. So this is about the Newton's third law of motion. Now I will say one small example. Some bullet, I hope all of you see the size of the bullet. It is very small in mass, very small size because of its small mass. It is loaded in a rifle. So if you are an NCC student, you can know the size of the rifle. When a rifle is fired from a bullet, definitely because of its small mass, the rifle moves with a tremendous velocity. Now calculate its momentum, call it as x. So what is x? It is the momentum of a bullet which is coming out from a rifle. So simultaneously when the bullet moves in a forward direction, the rifle recoils, moves in the reverse direction, moves backward with some velocity. What is the recoil velocity? Definitely the recoil velocity of a bullet, the recoil velocity of a rifle is very small in magnitude. So now calculate the momentum of that rifle also, call it as a y. Definitely both are same. You can say the momentum of bullet is more, the momentum of recoil of a rifle is less, means it is wrong. Here you can say momentum is more because of its tremendous velocity. Here you can say the momentum is less because of its lower velocity. But the thing is, here the mass of the bullet is very much small when compared to the mass of the rifle. So by balancing mass with the velocity, the momentum of the rifle is equivalent to momentum of the bullet. Here the total momentum of the system remains same. What is the momentum of the bullet is equivalent to momentum of the rifle. In the sense, the total momentum in a given closed system remains the same. This leads a one more law, that is law of conservation of momentum. Law of conservation of momentum. What do you know about the word conserved? You can say a conserved forest. Forest has been saved from so many external agents. So here momentum has been saved. Momentum should not be waste. So momentum remains same. That is the meaning of the word conservation. How you can say the this law of conservation of momentum means, whenever two or more bodies collide with each other. I repeat, whenever two or more bodies collide with each other, then the total momentum before collision must be equal to total momentum after collision. Or in a single sentence you can say, in a closed system always the total momentum remains constant. So you can expect the question, state law of conservation of momentum for 2 marks, or sometimes it is for 3 marks also. In a closed system, whenever two or more bodies collide with each other, the total momentum before collision must be equal to total momentum after collision. Even you can prove it this law mathematically. So with only few steps I will try to prove it. Let us consider the two bodies. You can call first body as A, whose mass is m1. So it moves with some initial velocity, say u1. There is a one more body, you call it as a B, whose mass is m2. So it also moves initially with a velocity, say u2. Due to some reasons, these two bodies, the same old bodies A and B, gets collide with each other. I mean, so force exerted on A, on B by A, you can call it as a F1. Similarly, during this process, B also exert force on A, you can call it as F2. If we call F1 as an action, F2 is a reaction, both are opposite directions. So after collision, definitely the velocity of A changes, you call it as a V1, its mass will be remain same. Then the velocity of B also changes, you call it as V2, whose mass is m2 itself. I hope the scene is very much clear. There are two bodies which are labeled as A and B, possesses masses m1 and m2, moves initially with a velocities u1 and u2 respectively. These two bodies for some reasons collide with each other. So collide with each other means during the time of collision, A apply some force on B, and for this B apply some force on A simultaneously according to Newton's third law. After collision, so this collision takes place for a span of about t seconds. We don't know how much exactly it is, call it as in general as a t seconds. After collision, so the change in velocity of A is V1 and that is of B is V2 respectively. This is the physics involved in this derivation. Now the question is, what is the force exerted on B by A? It is F1. So I just repeat, F1 is the force exerted on B by A. Similarly, F2 be the force exerted on A by B. So if you call this one as an action, this one as a reaction, definitely according to Newton's third law of motion, both action and reaction are equal and opposite. To represent these two are equal, put the equal sign. To show these two are opposite in direction, put minus sign on either of its sides. F1 is the force acted on B by A. Similarly, F2 is the force acted on A by B. So how can you calculate force exerted on B by A? Means it is simply mass of B into acceleration of B, because according to Newton's second law of motion, so force can be calculated as mass, product of mass and its acceleration. Force exerted on B by A is simply mass of B into acceleration of B. Now similarly, what is the force exerted on A by B is simply minus sign is there. So mass of A into acceleration of A, mass of A into acceleration of A. What is mass of B? It is m2. Then what is acceleration? We don't know what is the acceleration of B, we are not specified, but we know what is the final velocity and what is the initial velocity of A or initial velocity of B. To change its final to initial to final velocity, what span of time is required also we know. So then acceleration is in general is rate of change of velocity, that is change in velocity to the time taken. Change in velocity means final velocity of B, it is V2, minus initial velocity of B, it is U2. So the time taken for this process, it is t. Similarly, this is equal to minus of mass of A is m1 into acceleration of A means, so acceleration of A means rate of change of velocity of A, that is final velocity of A. What is the final velocity of A? v1 minus initial velocity of A, it is u1, divided by time taken for this change in velocity, that is t. The t on the LHS gets cancels with the t on the RHS. Multiply it, m2 into v2 minus m2 into u2, which is equal to, here also multiply, minus m1 into v1 minus of minus, it is plus m1 into u1. Now so m2 v2 kept as it is, transfer minus m1 v1 from RHS to LHS, definitely it becomes m1 v1. What is remained in the RHS? It is m1 u1 minus m2 u2, you have to shift the right hand side, it becomes plus m2 u2. So you just write this mathematical expansion in a familiar form, it is m1 u1 plus m2 u2, which is equal to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. This is the mathematical form of a law of conservation of momentum, which is derived by making use of again Newton's third law of motion. You say m1 u1 mass of A, initial velocity of A, it is initial momentum of A. m2 is the mass of B, u2 is the initial velocity of B. Mass into initial velocity of B is initial velocity of B. So initial velocity of A plus initial velocity of B. v1 is the final velocity of A, m1 is the mass of the A, its product you call it as a final momentum of A. Similarly, this is final momentum of B. So in a single sentence you can say total initial momentum before collision must be equal to total final momentum after collision. This is the mathematical proof for the new law of conservation of momentum. With respect to this mathematical statement, total initial momentum before collision must be equal to total final momentum after collision. So from the examination point of view, it is a most expected question. So if you open 10 previous question papers, out of 10 at least in 5 to 6 question papers you can expect the question which is in the form of state law of conservation of momentum or state and prove law of conservation of momentum. So statement is very simple, total momentum before collision must be equal to total momentum after collision. Proof is, let us consider the two bodies which are initially moves with u1 and u2 having masses m1 and m2 respectively. So collide with each other for a time of about t seconds. After the collision its velocities will be changes to v1 and v2 respectively. So what is the action? Force applied on B by A is the action. So force applied on A by B is the reaction. According to Newton's third law of motion, action should be equal to minus of reaction. So action should be calculated as the product of force is equal to mass into acceleration, that is mass of B into acceleration of B. Similarly, mass of A into acceleration of A. Substitute the suitable definitions for acceleration of B and acceleration of A. Do the simplification. Finally, you will get m1 u1 plus m2 u2, which is equal to m1 v1 plus m2 v2, means total momentum in a system always remains constant, or total initial momentum before collision must be equal to total final momentum after collision. This is about the law of conservation of momentum. So I just forgotten one small definition while defining the equations of motion, that is we are going to connect all the equations of motion, that is v is equal to u plus at, v square is equal to u square plus 2as, and all the rest of the two equations for a body which is moves towards the earth surface or which is moves away from the earth surface. It should be so connected by applying a small definition, that is acceleration due to gravity. Usually it is represented by a abbreviation small g. What is acceleration due to gravity? We know that the material bodies which are not in contact with the earth surface and are nearest to the earth surface, they are moved towards the earth. Now the thing is, according to Newton's first law, if a body changes its position from rest to motion, there should be a influence of some force. Now the thing is, who is held responsible to keep the material bodies moving towards the earth surface? The answer is gravitational force. The answer is gravitational force. The answer is because of the influence of the gravitational force, the material bodies which are not in contact with the earth surface and are nearest to the earth surface are moved towards the earth surface. It is called as a gravitational force. Now we says that if you throw a body away from the earth surface, it is an example for a linear motion. If you drop some material body from certain height above the earth surface, then the body moving towards the earth surface, it is also an example for a linear motion. So the common sense tells us whenever the body moves away from the earth surface, at its every instant of journey, its velocity goes on decreases. When the body moves away from the earth surface, its velocity goes on decreases. Finally, when its velocity is completely zero, then the object material body reverses its direction, then it is coming back towards the earth surface. During the time of its journey towards the earth surface, at every instant of time, its velocity goes on increases. The summary is, whenever a body moves away from the earth surface or a body moves towards the earth surface, in both the cases there is a change in the velocity. In the first case, there is an increase in its velocity. In the next case, there is a decrease in its velocity. But we know that when there is a change in its velocity, then there is a change in the velocity of a moving body, it results a one more physical quantity, that is a acceleration. Now here the circumstance is very much clear, that is whether the body moves away from the earth surface or towards the earth surface, the change in its velocity is because of a gravitational attraction. Because of the gravitational attraction. By the influence of a gravity, there is a change in the velocity. There is a change in the velocity, then there is a result of the acceleration. That's why you can say the acceleration attained by a body. The acceleration attained by a body because of the gravity or because of the influence of gravitational force, you can call that one as a acceleration due to gravity. The name itself indicates acceleration attained by a moving body because of the gravity is called as a acceleration due to gravity. It's a numerical constant, as you all know, it is small g is equal to 9.8 meter per second square. It is almost constant, so anywhere. So there is only little bit of changes in its magnitude, so those changes negligible small, therefore we can say the numerical value of acceleration due to gravity is constant everywhere. It is around 9.8 meter per second square. So it is found that the acceleration due to gravity g is maximum at poles and it is minimum at equators. Don't worry about the those information, because you already study those information about the acceleration due to gravity. Here we have the different equations of motion are in the form of v is equal to u plus at, v square is equal to u square plus 2as, and s is equal to ut plus half at square. One more, it is distance traversed by a body in its nth second of motion, Sn is equal to u plus a by 2 into 2n minus 1. In our previous discussion, we came to know these are the equations of a motion for a body which moves along a straight line. So we also came to know when a body moves away from the earth surface, it is an example for a linear motion. When a body moves towards the earth surface, so it is also an example for a linear motion. But in both the cases, so we know what is the acceleration experienced by a body, that is g is equal to 9.8 meter per second square. Now whenever the body moves towards the earth surface, whenever the body moves towards the earth surface, if you think that it is an example for a linear motion, what are its equations of motion is same thing, u is same, v is same, n is same, t is same, everything is same. Only the thing is here a is written generally, this is the general magnitude of acceleration for a body which moves along a straight line. Whenever the body moves towards the earth surface, its acceleration is nothing but a acceleration due to gravity. Therefore replace, maintain everything is same, replace a by g for a body when it moves towards the earth surface. If you follow this convention, the first equation becomes v is equal to u plus gt. So the second equation becomes v is equal to u square plus 2gs. The third one is s is equal to ut plus half gt square. Fourth one is s suffix n, which is equal to u plus g by 2 into 2n minus 1. So please note that these represents the equations of a motion for a body which is moving towards the earth surface. Similarly, if a body moves away from the earth surface, these are the equations for a body moving towards earth surface. Similarly, what are the equations of a body which are moving which is moving away from the earth surface? Away from the, if a body moves away from the earth surface, once again it is an example for a straight line motion or a linear motion. So here towards the earth surface, away from the earth surface possesses the same magnitude of the acceleration, but their direction is quite reverse. When the body moves towards the earth surface, moves away from the earth surface, the direction of motion is quite opposite. To represent, to say in both the cases only the direction is different. So instead of replacing wherever a is there by g, you have to replace a by minus g when a body moves away from the earth surface. If you follow this convention, the first equation becomes v is equal to u plus a is minus g, plus into minus is minus gt. The second equation is v square is equal to u square, g is minus g, minus into plus is again minus 2gs. The third equation becomes s is equal to ut. So g is minus g, minus into plus is minus half gt square. Then fourth one is s suffix n, this is equal to u, plus g becomes minus g, plus into minus is minus g by 2 into 2n minus 1. So the convention is very simple. You have to remember this convention. These formulae may be make use frequently while doing some problems on the equations of motion. So as I explained in the previous class, so I will solve few problems on the chapters what I did in the final class, final session, final class I will solve few problems. Before that we concentrate only on the theoretical part of the syllabus given by me. Now so this is in general equations of motion. These are the equations of motion for a body moving towards the earth surface. These are the equations of motion for a body which moves away from earth surface. So these are few equations of motion. Now let us concentrate on further concept. Now one more small concept, even though it is general concept, so it will be awarded 1 or 2 marks in the examination, that is friction. So we know that without friction we can't walk, even without friction I can't write, without friction we can't sit. So we are walking comfortably, sitting comfortably, writing comfortably, on other routine work in our daily life are most comfortable because of the presence of a friction. Now the question is, what is a friction? Friction means opposition exists between the two surfaces which are in contact during their relative motion. When a one body moves on the another during the time of its relative motion, where the two surfaces are in contact with each other, there is an opposition exists. That opposition you can call it as a friction. Define friction for 1 mark, another 2 marks you can say friction is nothing but a opposition exists between the two surfaces in contact during their relative motion. It is one of the force, frictional force. So you just to recall, I will give one example while stating the Newton's laws of motion. We are going to throw two tennis balls simultaneously on the different surfaces. One is the smooth surface, another one is the rough surface. On the smooth surface the ball will travel larger distance, on the rough surface the same ball will travel the smaller distance. In the first case friction is less, in the later case friction is more. Friction can be exist between the ball and wall, etc. So that friction is the same friction, that is the opposition exists between the two surfaces which are in contact during their relative motion. You call it as a friction. There are different types of friction: static friction, dynamic friction, rolling friction, sliding friction, etc. Now in examination you can also there is a question is expected in the form of what are the advantages of the friction. So as I explained earlier, we can write comfortably on the board, write comfortably on the paper, walk comfortably on the road. So there are many, even automobiles moves on the road because of the presence of the friction only. In the absence of the friction, so our life is disaster, our daily life is disaster or misery. Now the thing is there any disadvantages in case of a friction? A few disadvantages are there. The most disadvantage of a friction is there is a lot of wear and tear. There is a lot of wear and tear because of the friction. Best example is an automobile, tire of an automobile. As time passes, so its thickness goes on reduces. So who will make the thickness of the automobile tire is less means because of the friction between the tire and the earth surface. Without friction the brakes are not applied and the automobile cannot stop suddenly. Automobile even cannot move. So wear and tear is the most observed disadvantage in case of a friction, and heat is produced because of the friction. Most of the automobile engines and most of the machine parts in a factory so are suffered with a wear and tear because of the friction. You can say heat is produced, sound noise, I mean sound pollution is produced because of the friction. These are all the few disadvantages. Is there any way to minimize the wear and tear due to friction? Definitely, one of the tool we have to minimize, it is not possible to avoid completely, we can minimize the wear and tear because of friction, is called as a lubrication. What is lubrication? Simply oiling the two surfaces which are in contact with each other. Lubrication means oiling the two surfaces which are in contact with each other by the suitable oil. So there is a opposition for their relative motion, is called as a lubrication. So what happens because of lubrication means, when the lubrication comes in contact with the two surfaces which are in contact with each other, they opposes for their relative motion, so it minimizes the opposition. If it minimizes the opposition, definitely there is a, so the wear and tear because of friction has been reduces comfortably. So because of lack of time, so I will stop my discussion at this corner. In the next class, so I may continue with the further part of the syllabus. Thank you one and all.